Hello everybody and welcome to another Create With Me video. In this video I am making a zine or a zine. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm gonna say zine, which is a little book containing whatever you want really. I love making zines as I think they're a great form of creative expression, and I'm all for trying different forms of creative expression. For this zine, the theme that I went for was the idea of searching for something real. I think this is a feeling that I've had for a very long time, in terms of wanting to find something that's a little bit more tangible, a little bit more like you can hold it and it feels like, oh, this is kind of solid, but it's a concept, if you get what I mean. I think it's complicated. So I wanted to express this in art because I felt like that was the best way that I could do it. So the cover of this zine I actually made months and months and months ahead of when you are seeing like the video form of making this zine, and that was because I had like this spur of the moment like inspiration, and I was like, oh look, here's the cover. And then I made the cover and I was like, oh, I don't know now. Like, I don't know what goes in next, despite the fact that I had a sketched out plan. But I then decided, like, having made the cover, that the sketched out plan was not what I wanted. Like, it just didn't work for me. The inside, I then like sat down when I was filming, and it took me forever to decide what the inside was going to look like, but I cut that out of the video because it was really boring. It was literally me sat there scratching my head, quite literally. So it's not in the video. Yeah, so after thinking about it, I decided to go for a tech theme. And this was basically because obviously search engines such as Google or YouTube or Instagram or any other search engine that exists are really prevalent in our lives today, and they are one of the biggest ways that people find things out and find knowledge or gain access to, well, most things. Actually, all of our lives are pretty much online these days, so that was why I went with the tech theme. So the first page that I did, like first inside page this is, was inspired by like tabs that you have open, or applications that you have open on your phone very regularly, such as like music app or a camera app or a searching engine tab or whatever else. So I did like little frames basically of these different tabs and then added in the words that I wanted. These were built up through watercolor backgrounds and then coloring pencils, crayons, pens, etc. to add in details. Whilst I was sat outside doing this, I actually ended up having a very awkward conversation with somebody who came up and asked me. I was sat in the Tuileries, which is where the Louvre is in Paris, and some like French guy came up and was like, oh, what are you drawing? And I was like, huh? Because I had my headphones on, so I couldn't really hear to begin with. And then like I did not know how to explain it in French. Like I did not. I was like, I don't know. I hardly know what I'm doing anyway. I can't really explain it in English, let alone in French. And so it was a really awkward conversation. But yes, it was cool to have somebody to come up to me and like talk about my artwork, kind of, sort of. The second page that I did, so like the middle page of the booklet is, or like, supposed to resemble like a video, you know, like when you're watching YouTube or Netflix or whatever else. And that's because a large amount of our content today on the internet is consumed via video form, such as this video, you know. Ooh, that's a bit like Inception. Anyway, so I wanted to like put in a video sort of idea into this page, but like the person who's in the video is sort of fading away, kind of like being Thanos snapped, you know. And this idea sort of stemmed from, I think it was a piece of artwork that I saw on Pinterest, and I don't know if I can find that piece of artwork again, but if I can, I will insert it and I'll credit the artist, because it was a really cool piece of artwork. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. So I wanted to sort of emulate that, but like in my own style, of course. And the idea was the sort of feeling of being lost, because like there's a lot to get lost in these days. Lost in your everyday life, lost in stories, lost in the narrative that is being pushed upon you, lost in the internet, in the ether, as I call it sometimes, just due to the noise, the general noise of life. But also like the idea of feeling lost because everybody around you, including yourself, is trying to prove that you are a somebody. And I think that can often lead to a sense of like not really knowing yourself, because you're trying to show that you are somebody, but like how do you actually do that really? And I think that it also is supposed to convey the idea of like consumption. You know, like we consume this digital media and it feels real, but it's not real. You know, like when you're watching somebody on YouTube and you're like, oh, I kind of know that person now, but you don't really know them because you're seeing like little tiny snippets of their life. And I think there's that feeling of then this disconnect between reality and what's not reality. And whilst obviously social media and videos, they occupy our reality, they're not actually real in the sense of it's not directly in front of you. And then the last page is binary, like binary code. I simply wanted to show something like very plain and simple, like the noughts and ones that build up tech and the internet and like just coding basically, because I think that like life has just become so incredibly complex and the internet has become so incredibly complex, yet it's something that's actually rather simple when you break it down into the ones and noughts. I know nothing about coding, so this is completely like me just making it up, you know, like I just know ones and noughts and that's it. And so if you are a coder and watching this, I'm sorry because like I do not know anything about coding, but I wanted to sort of give that sort of idea of there's something simple behind this, but also it's very complex because there's so much data that builds it. Like wow, so much data that builds it. And then like yeah, and the idea of like this simplicity is what we get lost in, kind of sometimes. You know, we spend our days on our phones, on our tablets, on our computers, and they are all encompassing kind of. And I think that is something that I just wanted to like create a narrative around, you know. That's the whole point of this scene, is searching for something real in a world that doesn't feel very real because of the constant building of different worlds and different online spaces and different realities. And therefore then it's this, okay, so what's real and what's not real, and what is tangible and what's not tangible, and how do we navigate that space, is what this zine is kind of asking. Now you can see this is the finished zine. I'm really proud of how it came out. I think it looks cool, and it does definitely convey what I was trying to, especially with like all these subliminal texts, you know, which were completely subconscious. I did not realize that I was conveying that message until like later, when I then started writing about the zine and like to do like an art description, and I was like, oh my god, this was completely subconscious. I did not at all in any way intend to make that kind of narrative, but you can draw this narrative, and that is cool. And I may also digitize this zine and put it up online. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next.